Welcome back, new beginners. We are New Beginnings After 40. I am Jen.
I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Lori.
Thank you for joining us again. Today we are going to finish up our 3-part health journey series, and we're going to discuss anxiety and stress and how it affects every part of our lives. But first, let's go ahead and see what happened. What's going on this week?
Oh, yeah.
Y'all had a week.
You want me to start?
Yeah.
Well, lots of anxiety and stress. So good topic to have this week. So, I got some kind of not so, let's just say disturbing news about my mom. And so I'm a little worried about that. And here we are on Mother's Day. So, it's all about mom. So a little bit of that is wearing heavy on my heart tonight. So I do have a little bit of anxiety. I'm not going to share because that's personal, information. But either way, I'm worried about my mom. And other than that, I really haven't had a whole lot of stress, but I think, Kimberly, you've kind of gone down my path this week with your mom, huh?
I did. It actually is a crazy story. I had to take my mom because she lives between my sister and myself, and my sister lives in Austin. So my mom had a pain doctor appointment, and they happened to have an office in Waco. So we've already been once. And so we went again on Tuesday. And when we got there, she was having little issues staying stable when she was trying, standing up. So then we went to the room and they took her vitals and her oxygen was at 83.
What's it supposed to be, 99?
Well, yeah. But I mean, you'll be fine in the 90s, but now you're at 83. And so... and then she had high blood pressure.
Okay.
So they literally just stopped the appointment and they called 911.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I know. So, and we're in Waco. And of course, I don't have my medicines to go to sleep. I don't have anything.
Yeah.
And she's going to get her stuff in the hospital.
So you should ask. Can I have some too? You are a VIP hospital stayer.
Exactly. But, so I followed them, went to the hospital. We got her, in the emergency room, got her all, and then they admitted her. So I slept and hung out on the couch in the room, but I had to leave, drive all the way back home to get mom change of clothes, pajamas, get my clothes, pajamas, my medicines, and then drive right back to Waco.
And that's an hour and a half?
Yeah.
It was an hour and a half. So I got back around 8 p.m. And so then they kept her, and then the next day they kept her again. So we were there for 2 days. We got home late out yesterday afternoon. So, but everything ended up, they got her better. And so that part I'm really glad about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very happy to
Had a
hear that.
great ending.
What about you, Jim?
I didn't have anything going on this week. I chilled,
Nothing?
completely relaxed.
Did you watch any good series? Or are you still on Vampire
I
Diaries?
finally finished Vampire Diaries. Watched all of them again.
I think there's a million.
It felt like there was a million.
Yeah.
And I've watched them all the way through. This is at least the third time. It takes a while.
Yeah.
There's 8 seasons and 24 episodes each season. I'm so used to now 12 episodes for a series. The quick come out, watch them all in a day. It took me a minute
How
to
many
watch
are there
all.
in there?
Well, 8 seasons, 24 episodes.
8 seasons. Okay.
Yeah. And then, that's kind of like me watching Grey's Anatomy. For
I'm still
20
there.
seasons, there's a lot.
Yeah.
But, we binge watch so many things. And
Multiple times.
Multiple times. Multiple times.
That's for me, because of my anxiety, to watch something that I've already watched. It's less
It's calming.
stressful. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
So
Because you already know what's coming.
I know it's coming, and I know I like it. Sometimes I feel like my heart's pounding just reading through everything, and I'm like, I don't know what to watch. So I'll go watch something that, kind of like you with Twilight.
Yeah.
Even though you love it, I think it's one of your comfort shows.
You know what my go-to is? Gossip Girl.
See, I do love
I
Gossip
watched
Girl.
it once.
Times.
I watched the whole thing.
I've watched it 100 times.
I've
and
watched it 2 or 3 times.
But I feel like that with that series the same way. It's like it's like almost like you watched it for the first time again, even though you watched it 10 times.
So on my way back to Waco.
You didn't.
On my way back, I put on Twilight.
Oh, no, you didn't.
Yes, I did. And I just set it up there by my speedometer, and then I just listened to it the whole way. It made the drive a whole lot faster.
You know what? I can't believe I didn't think about this, but you were under a lot of stress. But when you go back to Waco, because you will,
Yeah.
stop by Buc-ee's and get me some beef jerky, because I never can get that because I'm not near one.
No, I will. I mean,
Back
I
on it?
don't even stop at Buc-ee's because it's on the other side
Oh, no, you
of
go
the
through
road.
Hillsboro. There's one in Hillsboro. Oh, yes. But
It's
you'd have
on
to
the
go
other
way
side
there.
of the
You're
road,
right.
and it's always busy. So I
You're
don't ever stop. But I would do it for you.
Well, and we don't have one close by me. I'm actually going to go out to my mom's on Sunday, so maybe she has one like 2 exits past her or something.
There you go.
Very good. All right. Well, Jen, at least you had a relaxing week.
I did.
And we both,
Yeah,
Had a
I'm still
stressful
living in
week.
stress,
yes.
I mean,
unfortunately.
I was worried,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay.
for y'all,
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for the
for
support.
your mothers.
Yeah, and Mother's Day is Sunday.
Yeah.
So we're, excited to celebrate our mothers and being able to be there with them. I'm so glad that my mother is happened to be here.
Yes.
And this video won't come out until afterwards. So I can tell you that my sister, Sherry in Austin, is actually making a surprise visit. She'll be here in the morning. And so my baby Christian, okay, he's not a baby, but he's my baby. Christian, my nephew, and my little baby Ollie.
I'm so excited to see them too.
Yes. I'm so excited. So Ollie will be here, and my sister and my Christian, they'll be here in the morning. I was
Awesome.
supposed to clean today. I did not.
Yeah, that I'm excited for that actually because
Are you going to come over and see Ollie?
of course.
Yay! I love
Okay.
my baby. So,
Okay, well that's enough probably about our week because we're gonna get into this episode and it's gonna take us. Oh no! First,
Yes. Oh, that's right.
if you remember last podcast, Kimberly brought up that she, instead of going to talk about our week, even though we just did, she is also going to tell a story about something that's happened in the past. Typically, they're funny or crazy or both.
yeah.
So, what you got for us this week?
I pondered and pondered over what story to tell, and I didn't want to start off too crazy because then you ought to be like, oh my God, who is this woman? And I have a lot of little girl stories. I have a lot of adult stories. I have some really crazy ones. I have things that are probably against the law. But here's the one I'm going to go with.
Uh-oh.
We're dying to hear this.
I know. Lori doesn't even know. I mean, Jen doesn't even know which one I'm going to tell. Okay. So we're in our early 20s. And we used to go to this karaoke bar all the time. Every weekend it was the karaoke bar. We loved it. We can't sing, but we loved to go. We would sing, but it's listening to everybody also. So we had a friend there that was with us, and she was dating this guy. And I said, and we're just sitting there, and he's up at the bar, and Lori and I and our friend are sitting down at the table, and she just keeps looking at me and going, Kim, I'm telling you, he is a horrible, horrible kisser. And I go, listen, how bad can it be? And she said, no, it's really bad. And so we're going back and forth on this, and I'm looking at Lori going, what? Why is she so exaggerating? I mean, I've had some bad kissers, but okay. And so then she looks at me, our friend, and she says, okay, now this is her boyfriend, not someone she's dating, but her boyfriend. So she looks at me and goes, I want you to go up to him and kiss him. I said, you want me to go up to the bar and kiss your boyfriend? She goes, it's the only way I can get you to understand. I go, you have to kiss me. You're his girlfriend. And so she said, oh no, just go do it. You can make it happen. I said, Okay, so I get up, I go to the bar and standing there, and so I'm standing next to him sideways, and so I'm just talking to him, and hey, what's going on? And just small talk, and then I'm getting closer and closer to his face, and I'm like, hey, I know that you're dating my friend over here, and I said, but I was just wondering, could I kiss you? And he looked at me and he's like, what? I go, Heather's already given me permission to kiss you. And he's like, no, she didn't. And so she looks over and he sees her watching us. And so I leaned in, and so I said, and grabbed my arm, put it around his neck, and then pulled him in and started kissing him.
And
it
was
was
she right?
the worst kiss I have ever had in my entire life. And so when I say bad, I finally understood what she was meaning. This guy is like basically licking my whole face. And just like that tongue was all over, like here, and it's just like a dog. I was like, I just, in my wildest dreams, would have never imagined, something like that happening. So I said, thank you. Walked back to the table, looked at her and said, oh my God, you are right.
What a great friend you were. Because I totally wouldn't have done that.
I was there. She was there. And, and just, getting some other guy to kiss you, but then just because you're friends wants you to know how bad it is. I don't think they lasted after that much longer. I mean, maybe just a little bit.
And honestly, or obviously not calling the person out.
No.
But he's actually a good-looking guy, and so you wouldn't guess that he was not a great kisser, which is why Kimberly was questioning it in the first place.
I'm a friend, I'll help you do anything.
What a great friend. Good story.
I started with something a little mild.
Yeah, that was definitely mild side. Stay tuned for the.
Stay tuned next week for my next story.
Yeah.
All right. So this week we are talking about stress and anxiety. We're going to start off with Miss Jen.
Yes. So first I want to say that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So it's really good that we're talking about this because so many people suffer through stress, anxiety, panic attacks, anxiety attacks. And we have mentioned at least once every single episode that we have anxiety. We stress and just trying to figure out ways to cope with it and to live with it. That's the hardest part. And when I was a little girl, my mom would call me a worrywart. I know you said your mom did too.
Yep.
And she kept telling me, if you don't stop worrying all the time, you are going to have a heart attack before you turn 20. And then that worrying started to become stress. And she kept telling me, baby girl, you don't know what stress is. Wait till you're a grown up. You have nothing to stress about. But I did. I always was stressed about something. And then it turned into overthinking. And then it turned into full-on anxiety. In my early 20s, I went to the hospital thinking I was having a heart attack, and it was just a panic attack. And so at that time, I was also diagnosed with depression, which for a while I took antidepressants and then got off of those. Anxiety is my issue, and that's something that every single day, it's something that I just live with. And it's really, really hard, especially, I panic when I'm leaving the house. I worry. I'll cancel stuff all the time because my stomach will start hurting. I'm just like, I don't want to go. I don't want to be around people. So that makes sense. When I'm having an anxiety attack because I'm going somewhere, that makes sense. When I'm standing in a crowd full of people, that makes sense. What gets me is when I'm laying in bed watching a movie, completely relaxed, and then my heart starts to skip a beat and pound and race. Where does that come from? Why?
Well, yeah, and I think you should touch on your story recently that you had that really amplitude on that.
So in March, I went to Colorado with my brother and his family. So for the whole week, maybe even more than a week, but especially the week prior, I was stressing, all my list, packing. I was worried about the drive. I was worried about being that far away from everybody. I was just stressed about so much. But then the night before, I stayed in Amarillo for a night, and they showed up to stay in Amarillo as well, but they didn't get there until 2 o'clock in the morning. So about 8, I went and got dinner, and I was starting to calm down, but then my anxiety just skyrocketed because I had gotten a alert that there was going to be a winter storm. I was already so scared about driving to Colorado by myself. So I didn't take a Xanax because I decided that I was starting to calm down. And I took one of my other medications that's supposed to help me, and it doesn't work. I don't take it anymore. But then it started really ramping up. I was watching Venom. I was feeling better. I was starting to get drowsy. I'm about to fall asleep. And then all of a sudden, I just had like this rush go up and down, and I was lightheaded and my head was pounding. So I ran to the bathroom. I don't know why I ran to the bathroom. I'll never figure that part out. It made no sense. I was like, maybe I need to go to the bathroom. I don't know why. Yeah. So I ran to the bathroom, and then I'm like feeling like I'm going to pass out, and my heart rate is 170. So Yikes. I called 911. I'm sitting in a hotel all by myself, and I've never experienced this. I know what anxiety attacks feel like for me. And they came and they did the EKG and they checked everything, and they said, well, your blood pressure is really, really high. And then they said they think maybe because I had taken the Xanax and mixed the two medications. And I said, okay, well, I was worried that was the problem, but I looked it up first, and it said it just makes you drowsy. And I looked it up for a good 30 minutes because I'm scared to take things,
Yes.
Me too.
I don't take anything. Same. So I was like, okay, well then I won't take it again. And I haven't taken that other medication since because I was too scared. So I thought, okay, that's what it's got to be. And calmed down, and they left after my blood pressure had gone down, not to a good spot, but a lot down. And they said if I needed them to, they'd come back. But at that moment, they thought I was okay and that I was just having anxiety. I kept telling them, I know what anxiety is. This is not anxiety, people. So I felt better, and I went to sleep probably about 2. And then the next morning, I felt great. Went to breakfast with my family. We get in the car. We start driving. I'm following them. We're calling each other back and forth, and they're like, you're such a badass because I actually passed somebody, and I never do that. I'm a scaredy cat, like in every part of my life. So, and then all of a sudden, the wave rushed through me, and then I started to get dizzy, and I was like, I'm going to pass out. There's no shoulder. There's nowhere to pull over. So I called them, and I said, this is happening right now. I have to pull over. And my brother says, well, as soon as we have a spot, we'll pull over. And we kept driving, and it happened again. And I called back, said, I have to pull over right now in the grass. He goes, I see a driveway. So we pulled over. He pulled over, I pulled over, and he got out of his truck and came running, and I was just shaking, and I was nauseated, and he got me out of the car, and my legs wouldn't hold me.
Oh.
Wow.
I was like, I don't know what happened either. It was a beautiful drive. There was no snow. There was no reason for it. So he ended up driving me the rest of the way, and because he was driving, I took a Xanax to calm down, and it took a long time.
Sure.
And it was probably 45 minutes before I could start having a conversation. So he was like, trying to calm me down, and I'm like, just no. And I had a bag in case I got sick because I was so nauseous. And then I was like, you know what? I'm wearing a pain patch. I've never worn one of these before. Maybe that's what's causing it. So I took that off. Never doing one of those again, right? Well, then I had a great day. We got there Saturday, I believe. Had a great day Saturday. Had a great day Sunday. Slept great. Didn't even take a melatonin or anything. And I always take a melatonin or something. And then Monday, great day. We went to dinner, and the same thing happened at the table. Wow. So then started thinking, okay, it must be my blood pressure. that's the difference. When my blood pressure is high,
Yeah.
I feel a different way
Yeah.
than just when my heart's racing. So I ended up leaving 2 days early because I knew a winter storm was, back up a bit. That
Uh-oh.
winter storm never even came.
No.
But it did come. So I left 2 days early and came home, and I was stressed on the drive home, but not as bad as normal. And as soon as I got to that hotel in Amarillo, I called Lori and we talked, and I was so much better. And then the drive from Amarillo home was like the windiest day
yeah,
ever.
it was. I told Roger about
my goodness. I got nailed by so many tumbleweeds. What the heck? So but once I got home, I still did not feel right for several days. So I finally made an appointment and went in and told them I think there's something wrong with my blood pressure. And they put me on blood pressure medicine. But I only took it 3 times. Because my blood pressure is going back down. I mean, I do have ups and downs, but it's not constant.
Yeah, like it was. Yeah.
Which they said that with hyperthyroidism, you can have
Yes.
anxiety heightened, you can have blood
Yes.
pressure heightened. So all of that could be that. But whatever it is, I'm tired. I'm so tired of being anxious.
I bet you are exhausted.
Well, so to touch on that, like when she was going through that, as someone who does have thyroid problems and anxiety, and I'm like, Jen, if I take something, I overthink it 800
Yes.
times. Maybe I shouldn't take that. I shouldn't take
Yes.
that. And so as I'm talking to her, she's unfolding this story as it went on for this week. You know, we went through different stages of it. I thought the same thing. First, I thought could be the medication. Then I thought she was worrying about whether, taking the medication. And then I had a conversation with her the night before she decided to go to Colorado, and she was by herself, and she told me what had happened with the paramedics coming to the room. And I said, Jen, if you're worried about driving, this is the time to say, I'm going to turn around and come back. Don't even go. And then like she said, her brother got there. She felt more comfortable. She kept on going. Then I thought at one point it was the altitude, because, when you get up into Colorado, but she really wasn't at that point. She was in Amarillo, which isn't quite there yet. But then
Right.
once she got in Colorado and she was experiencing things, I thought, well, maybe that's it. Because I do know somebody who had an episode like that and had to be careful. I did to Denver, because there is such a thing.
Right.
So I thought maybe that was it. And then she got back here and she told me she had gone and they talked about hyperthyroidism. So that resonated with me, because I have hypothyroidism. However, now I've told y'all my story last week about me switching to a different medication. One thing they wanted me to watch out for are hyper symptoms, accelerated heart rate, more of anxiety type feelings. And I haven't experienced those, but I do know why that kind of makes sense, that it
Right.
is your thyroid as well. But it still is like, now that you're here and some time has passed from that and you're kind of calmed back down. So it still doesn't really make sense. But
Our doctor did actually say that, what did you call, the
altitude.
the altitude, that is,
Sickness.
the altitude sickness is a real thing.
Yeah.
And that could have been it. And the fact that I was still coming down for a week. Because
Yeah.
it was really the week after. And
Yeah.
then after that, I don't take the blood pressure medicine.
Yeah. So
I'm not going to take it unless I need it. And
I mean, I've never experienced that, but like, again, I know someone who has, and that was their experience. It takes quite a time to come down from that when
Very
you're in that
possibly, yeah.
high up. So maybe, hopefully,
have
we'll
been.
just hope that that's the case.
Yes.
That's kind of what it is. But
Yeah, she had
very scary.
She was doing our group text, and I'm not very good at like reading all of the texts because there's so many, and I just skim. And so she said something about a fireman, and having a party in her hotel room. So, I'm just reading. I didn't even catch on that she had this, the panic attack and all of that. And so I think it was the next day she had, we were talking and she had brought up the fireman, and I'm like, what do you mean? I said, I said, you were saying you had firemen and, having a party. And she said, no, I really did. But it was because they were coming, because I had to call 911. And I'm like, oh, I guess I really need to read these texts
Yeah.
because I was thinking she was just making a joke.
which I usually do.
Yeah, well, she was having a fireman and everything to come in and have a party.
Yeah, see me, he says that, and I pick up the phone and call her. I'm
Yeah.
like, you can't just send a text like that.
Yes, you do. Well, I did have firemen.
I literally did.
It was pretty cool. We had a good time. After X Palm
So you had a party.
I had a party.
But I'm glad that they were able to calm you down because that's
They
the
were.
important part. Because that
Just, I
that
think-
made me feel better, honestly.
Being alone was
Yes.
the hardest
Yes.
part. But even on the night that I said we went to dinner and it happened, my brother stayed
that
with me
makes
in my
sense.
room until like 3 a.m. before
know.
I calmed down.
Oh, wow.
But that's why I think it's the altitude at that point because you said that like you were just in the restaurant and you were not feeling anxiety or
No,
anything up and then
nothing.
it just came on like nowhere. That is more to me altitude sickness because that's what people feel when that comes on. And that's what I think you were experiencing there. So I think it was all like
It
compounded.
probably was a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Well, as y'all talk about the whole stress and anxiety, so of course I am in that ball game too. Maybe that's why we're all best friends.
Oh, it is.
We get
100%
each
why.
other. We understand.
100%.
Yeah. So I'm in that ball game too. Mine, I think the first bout of depression for me started about 6 months after I had Hayden, my son. So of course, postpartum depression. So I have literally been on that type of medication since he's 23. So when he was 6 months old, I guess it did change me. Because I would try to get off of it many times and it was not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And so in the anxiety, I think mine was depression for a long time and then anxiety would kick in and stress. I think I would just, as she was saying, Jen, I would always overthink things, and I truly just, I would overthink everything, and then I would just start stressing about what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. Oh my God, what's going to happen? I just sit there and I do that over and over and over. And so as I kept getting older, and as I have said in the past, that I was in property management. I was a property manager for 100 years, and then I was promoted to a regional manager. Now, I wanted to be a regional manager for so many years prior because I knew that I was ready. I wanted just to be moved up. So I got the position, and it all starts off great and everything, and it's a lot more responsibility, and so after like a couple years, I think that when I was doing my work and everything, I'm taking my time doing it because I don't want to mess up. I'm that type of person. I don't want to mess up. I want it to be perfect. I want my bosses to be, happy with what I'm turning in and, great job. Yes, I'm that person that, that attaboy.
Yeah.
Okay. I had to try to stop myself from doing that. I don't know why I needed that justification, but I did. So then it just started getting worse. The stress, I would have full on panic attacks, just like Jen said, and that I was going into the hospital, and then I'd find out it was just a panic attack. I got on medication for this, and I'm not like them. I don't look up medications. I just give them to me. So, the biggest part that happened was that I think has it been a year and a half ago, I believe, or 2 years? Oh, I think a year and a half. But my stress and anxiety level got so high that I did, and we're going to be real, I did think about not being on this earth. It wasn't something I was planning. It was just thought in my head. I was so out of it, and I would go to work and try to get my work done, and then just each day it just kept getting worse. So one day I was walking a property with a manager and the assistant manager, and so we were walking and doing all that. we're finished, and I mean, I'm smiling, I'm happy, with them. I go and get in my car, and I'm within 1 minute, I broke down, crying, sobbing in my car. Why? I just had a great day. It was horrible. I ended up calling my boss and, and talking it through with her. And then I believe it was a day or two later that I thought about it again, and then called our friend Michelle, and she came and picked me up and took me to the ER. And then they admitted me into, we're going to call it a resort.
A retreat.
Oh, a retreat.
A health retreat. Mental retreat.
Yes.
That sounds even better.
Yeah. Because I was so far gone. And so I ended up staying there for a week. And, they just had us doing different projects, art, games, and therapy, and all of that. And I truly needed it. And so I know we joked about it that, yeah, it's great to get away for a week from real life, but I truly needed it. But it did put me out of work for about 3 months because I needed to do the whole program. It wasn't just go away for a week.
Yeah.
That's just going to just touch the surface.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so they had to get all the way down. So then I went back to work after 3 months, and then it started happening again later on. So this year, I kept trying to say, should I go back to being a manager? I don't have all that responsibility. Yeah. What should I do? And then the day I had already gone to my bosses and said, hey, I'm thinking about this. And they're going to support me on whichever way I was going to go. But the stress and the anxiety just started back getting to how it was. And I knew that I had to walk away. And I loved my job. I loved my people. I loved my bosses. I loved everything about my company. I loved my owners that I worked for, everything. But it got out of hand for me, and I had to walk away.
You're more important than that.
Yeah, I may be broke.
Yeah, but you are more important.
But I did have to walk away, and so, which I'm really sad about. But that is what stress and anxiety can do to someone. It can push them that far. And just like Jen said, and this just even happened to me the other day, I'm laying in the bed and I'm good. And then, I wake up and I feel like someone's standing on my chest like an elephant. And what do I have to worry about? And it just goes and goes and goes until I have to take my medication. Mm-hmm. So the stress and the anxiety is just exhausting, isn't it?
Exhausting.
It's exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
And Lori has we all have
another
it.
Story, yeah.
Yeah. So it can put you in all kinds of states, and it can make you sick, and it can make you so depressed and make you think bad thoughts. So definitely, if you ever start to feel, we all have, anxiety and stress is a big deal. But when you start to feel yourself just getting worse and worse, like I did, Jen has, Lori has, you have to seek help. Go, I'm not saying go, admit yourself. I'm saying seek help with someone.
Therapist, somebody.
Yeah, I have, I ended up getting a psychiatrist, and I had a therapist. And so for my medications, I still have one that I speak to every about 2 to 3 months just for my medicines. But she just checks on me and says, hey, how you doing? And I'm like, okay, I'm good. So I ended up having to tell her that I had, to leave my job. And she's like, oh, wow, I never thought you would do that. So that's my story. And, there's always a lot more, but we just wanted to kind of tell short versions of what we go through.
Okay, so my turn, I guess.
Yes.
So I did. So first off, my story, I'll end with mine, but mine, as you see, will intertwine with theirs, and then I'll end on the importance of having a circle. So my story is very similar. Starts off very similar to Jen's story. So as a kid, I was the same. I was a worrier, overthinker, worried about what other people thought about me and less about what I thought about myself. And that was kind of my tig-tolling through. And so then fast forward, we talked about in the first introduction stories that I married my soulmate. I had the best husband in the world. Still can say that 25 years later. And so we get married, and we had been married 5 years before we decided to grow our family. And so I got pregnant pretty quickly, and I'm going along in the pregnancy, and then I ended up in a high-risk situation and delivered Ryan at 20 weeks, and he was 2 pounds premature. And so, that was a whirlwind. He was in the NICU for 3 weeks, and I'm going to say, like, when the moment he was born, he was 2 pounds, and I knew in my gut that something could happen and he was going to be taken. And, my husband is parading around like, he'd never seen a newborn. So he's thinking it's completely normal. And so we spend, 3 weeks in the NICU, and things are looking positive, only for us to get a phone call with needing to get to the hospital. He's not going to make it through the night. And he had gotten an intestinal infection and gotten sick. And I might take a deeper dive into that story later on down this podcast path. But so long story short, we lost him in 3 weeks. He was born for 3 weeks, and then, I'm holding him in my arms, and that's it. And I can still vision his little eyes, and I can still vision me sitting there holding him, and my husband sitting next to me and just crying till his last breath and saying we only wanted one. And that ate me alive. And so, we had a funeral, and 3 weeks after he died, I thought I was having a heart attack, similar to what Jen just said. And so I had not had anxiety problems before that or panic attacks before that. Again, I thought I was having a heart attack. Well, then I realized that I was, of course, being thrown into a panic attack mode. And, we don't process grief the same way. My husband did not go down that path. I just kept thinking in my head, I'm not going to say I thought that you got married, had children, lived happily ever after, but essentially that's what I thought. And, here I had this great relationship and great husband already for 5 years. And so I thought, why me? I never went down that stage of grief of, you go through sadness, madness, blame, fortunately for me and my husband, we never blamed. I became very close friends with Ryan's nurse in the NICU, and she said she often finds couples, fighting about it or blaming each other. I mean, it's just your process of the situation, and the NICU is a hard place to be in, and that's a topic for a whole nother podcast. But either way, we never went through that. I mean, if anything, it strengthened us because I'm always been the one that controls everything, and I still am that person. But in those moments, I felt completely helpless. And I think that's what's brought the anxiety up is I had no control over it. It was in God's hands. That was it, and not mine.
Do you know they say that, which I'm so glad that, you made it to the other side, but that losing a child is like almost, I'm not saying number one cause of divorce, but that's,
it is. It absolutely
so
is.
It's way up there, and y'all stayed strong together.
And really, like, there is nothing, and I mean nothing, worse on this earth than losing a child. And I'm going to touch on that in a bit because I came across a family years and years later with that, but I want to talk about the anxiety portion of this and for this particular moment. So that in those moments when that was all unfolding, I completely shut down at some point because I'm, like I said, the planner. You got a doctor's appointment this week to my husband, or I'm just the planner and everything. It's not that I didn't know that he wouldn't step up if I couldn't, but he literally just sprung into action and was like taking over everything without even being asked. And so when I say like normally couples do separate and have problems with that, he became my rock. And in years to come, as other things happen, like losing my dad in 2018, which was a huge blow, again, he was reminded that he's my rock. I mean, there was a reason that we were put together. And so that only strengthened us. But what I learned out of that was, so he did not have to go to therapy. I did, because I was having horrible anxiety, obviously. And so I did go down that path. I spent almost 2 years in therapy for this. And, but what I learned out of that was several things. At the time I was working, I lived in Fort Worth, Crowley area, and going to Dallas, and I was taking a train to and from work. And I was actually doing some online schooling too during that time, and I was reading a psychology book. And I had a lady sitting down next to me, because UT Southwestern was one of the stops, and so all the medical professionals get on the train. And she was sitting next to me, and she looked at me and she said, "Are you studying that, or are you?" And I'm like, I mean, yes, I am, but I also deal with, I don't like really bothering people when they're off work, and then you're talking, like, it's almost like you're taking advantage of them because they are doctors. Mm-hmm. And so she was a psychologist, and so we started talking, and I kind of told her my story. And man, she said something that still resonates with me today. I'll never forget it, because it's been 19 years. I mean, this has been a long time ago. And she said to me, "Have you had cognitive behavioral therapy before?" Because I was like, "No, I had therapy." And she's like, "No, have you had cognitive behavioral therapy before?" And I was like, "Well, what's the difference?" And she said, "Well, basically cognitive behavioral therapy is where your mind and your body almost have separated. So it's like trying to bring them back together." And she said, "The best way I can explain it is, you know that moment when you see a car accident, you're about to be in one, you're about to hit, like, even if it's a minor one, you immediately go, and you suck in and you don't let out." I'm like, "Yes." And she goes, "So that is what cognitive behavioral therapy is like they have not made it back up." And do you want to know? So he would be 20 this last March. He would have been 20. Mm-hmm. Do you know that I've never exhaled from that moment that he died? Still to this day.
Really?
Never taken it back out. So that really resonated with me. And so I did go to another therapist that specialized in cognitive behavioral therapy. Again, I spent a lot of time. The first thing that she told me was, so I'm that person that, like, everyone went to when they had a problem. My mom, my dad, my sister, my coworkers. I was in cubicle life during that part of my job, and every single person around me, if they had a problem, I don't care what it was, I needed to fix them. I'm a fixer, and I still am that person. But she told me, the first thing she told me when I came to see her was, "You can't be that person right now, because you're the one that needs to be fixed. You have to turn them off. You need to tell your mom, your sister, your dad, your friends, your coworkers, they cannot come to you for anything." And that was really hard to do, because that's just who I am. And she goes, "I know that's who you are, and I'm not saying you can't be that person again one day, but right now you cannot be." And so I wanted to put in the work, because I wanted to feel better, because I felt, obviously I'm going through grief, but not only that, but I'm at physical problems with the anxiety. And so I did as well go down the course of, like Kimberly was saying, and Jen has brought up too, is like they threw medications for anxiety at me, and I took them, that they didn't do anything. And so I just continued to put in the work. She gave me a lot of tools in my toolbox that I learned in therapy that I still do today. And as I kind of went through this grieving process, again, that's a whole big ordeal with what I had and how I went down the path and ended up with a healthy baby at the end of it. Even still, that's a totally different journey. But what I learned in that is, I think I went into therapy thinking that this was going to just turn off, like it was a light switch. Like it was going to go off and I was not going to feel this way anymore. But again, here I'm sitting 20 years later, and that light switch has never been turned back off. It's still there. And so what I learned was in that process is that it never does. You just have to know how to manage it.
Yes.
And I thought in that moment, if I can be better one day and I'm able to share my story with somebody else that goes through this, I want to be able to do that. And I knew I couldn't then, but I hope that eventually I could do that. And I have done that through the years. I've met people that have lost children as well. I have met people that have anxiety attacks come on. The best one that I can think of that's more recent is I had a great friend of our family. They had 3 kids. They unfortunately had a son, the baby of the 3 kids that they had a battle with brain cancer, not once but twice. And the first time around, their middle child, he ended up having massive anxiety because of what he was watching his brother go through at such a young age. And so unfortunately, 5 years in, then he is again died, has come back. The tumor had come back. It was brain cancer. And so by that point, he had gone through therapy himself and had overcome to work on his anxiety. And he's probably 17 years old, maybe at the time. And we were able to have a little conversation at the hospital. And I said, it's this. The only thing that really helps you is talking to other people who also feel the same as you do, because you can't explain it to people who don't have it. I mean, my husband's very supportive. These girls here next to me, their partners are very supportive. But in the end, the people that you need to rely on when you're going through moments of it is someone who experiences it too. Because again, sometimes it's something not even out like for no reason, and other times it's spiced up. So for me, I get where they are, but mine is brought on differently. So for me, is it going to be the mother I was supposed to be? I don't know, because I was already a warrior when I was a little kid. But for me, my fear and the worst that it brings out in is something with my other kid, that I'm raising and not God. His whole childhood, I did that. Like, he had a cold. I was like, you need to go to the ER. It's like, and even still, he's 18 and I'm still like constantly worrying about him. So maybe I was going to be that mom, or maybe it's the anxiety portion. But I do not experience the stress that like what Kimberly was explaining with work. But at the same time, I do in a way where I overanalyze and I'm hard critic on myself, but it doesn't get to the point where I have a anxiety attack over. Mine is more a fear of something bad happening, mostly with my kid. And again, I don't know if that's why or not, but I just feel like if you can share with people, there's no shame in it, but you have to be able to share with people in your life that suffer from that as well. Because whether it's depression, whether it's anxiety, and they are different. Depression is not the same as anxiety. And if you have both, I'm sorry, because it's double whammy. I never have had depression issues. Mine's been only anxiety. But I just want people to be able to find a place to talk to people and really resonate with it. And just know that it's kind of like the sadness of things in life is a normal emotion. There's no shame in it. We're all going to have it. It's a normal reaction. It's how you learn to react to it. And that's what makes you stronger.
I think that was everything you said. I was there.
Yes, so she knows what
I know everything you went through, and I'm so glad. I have a wonderful godson also, and Ryan, absolutely just beautiful, and we still have him always in our hearts.
Oh yeah, always. And too, like I had preeclampsia, and that's a whole. Like I said, I do want to take a little deep dive because I know that there's other people who have experienced that, but that's like kind of almost a podcast by itself. This is too much to unpack in one episode, but I will leave on this, like, as the journey has unfolded, I met a family. My kid went to a certain school for 7 years, and I met a family down that path that he became friends with, and I didn't know them when I lost Ryan, and so they have this wonderful charity function. They had lost their son at 16 from cancer, and I didn't know him at the time, but the fundraiser is still alive today, and it's a huge deal, and it was something that their son wanted to carry on through generations to come. And I said a comment to him one day, the dad. I said, I haven't ever told you this, but I also lost a son, and I told him, I said, I have no idea what you have been through, because I had him for 3 weeks, and I can't imagine my son being 16 and losing him. That would be gut wrenching, because I've always said, like, I couldn't survive it again. And he said, you know what, Lori, he goes, here's the thing. It doesn't matter whether they were 3 weeks, 3 years, 16 years. You belong to a club nobody ever wants to belong to. And he's right. I mean, that's the truth. There's you can't compare it. There's just nothing to say about that. But what I find in peace is that I do continue to carry on Ryan's memory. Mm-hmm. I was able to love on him and hold on him for 3 weeks, and there's a lot of moms that don't get that as we approach on Mother's Day this weekend. And I'm very fortunate for my current child. I love him dearly, and I'll talk about that a little bit, how I went into that and in further podcasts. So,
yeah. Well, it's such a hard thing going through.
Yeah.
And I'm always, in all in your strength and everything that you did.
Yeah, and I think that, like, my mom probably helped a little bit with that too. It's like, she pushed me to, like, be strong about it and through it, because she kind of told me when I kind of knew it was going to unfold, it was like, I don't think I almost wanted to back away from it because I knew it was going to come. And that's kind of why I disconnected. But she reminded me, like, you can't do that because you need to love on that baby no matter how long you're going to have with them. And that's my advice is out there is, like, you don't know. And I am a planner, and that's probably what's brought that up with anxiety is, like, when you don't know what's to come is what really throws your anxiety for a loop. And that's why I think I can resonate a lot with Jen and Kim a lot, is because we all feel that way at times. And sometimes it's for no reason at all. Nope. It just comes up and it just rears its head. But the only thing that you have to remember is like, it doesn't just go away. You just have to find a way to manage it. And that's what we try to do with each other, is we kind of pick each other up when we're down. Kimberly's a great example of that. I mean, when she told her story, like, my heart sunk when she told me she was going to have to, do that. But at the same time, I was glad that she got to the place where she knew she could do that. Mm-hmm. And she came out so much better on the other side. And so, I mean, there's no shame. That. No, you did. You absolutely did. And so I think that there's no shame in that. And then you just have to know when enough's enough. And you did. Yeah. And I was really proud of you. I was scared, so obviously. We were very scared, but we were very proud of you at the same time.
Well, Jen, I do know everything you go through also. Yeah. And, and I do push you outside your box.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Because I know she doesn't want to go anywhere, so I have to talk her into it. But I try not to put her in like a concert or deep anxiety places. But I try to get her to go places, and I have to talk, talk, and say, listen, and if you start to feel it, we'll leave. But I do. I push her, just trying to get her, because I don't want her to end up just staying in this house. And that's it. That's not a life that you want to live.
No.
And so, I mean, I want you to break out of that shell, and you have. You've started.
She has.
100% she has. And so I will continue to do that to the day we die.
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't that crazy about how it affects us differently? Because, like, I can go to AT&T Stadium amongst 90,000 fans and watch a football game. It doesn't even affect me.
It doesn't affect you at all.
Not at all.
Oh, no.
I mean, so that kind of, but I am claustrophobic in a sense of, okay, I might go to the 90,000 stadium fans, but when you come down that escalator and you're going to be dominoed when one drunk person falls and you ding, I won't do it again. I did it one time. And after that, I go down the ramp the whole way down. I will not do it. So I get that.
Where's the elevator?
Well, you can't, I mean, the elevators aren't occupied when you're trying to get 9,000 people out of the stadium. So, I mean, and so I don't think. So here's my thought on that is, like, there's a lot of people with, like, we have a lot of outside stress where, there's been some violent people at, like, movie theaters or outside malls or large crowds, and we have that back of our head a lot of times. But my thought on that, even though I suffer from fear of things happening, I don't do that. You know why? As I think like if your time's up, your time's
Yes.
up, and you can be at the wrong place at the wrong time, and you can't predict that. So you can't live your life in fear where you're not going to enjoy life, because we don't know how long we have here on earth, and you just have to enjoy every minute of it. So you have to try to block some of that out, that you can't think, okay, something's going to go wrong because I'm in this large crowd, to where you can't enjoy yourself. But I think like there is a time, I'm not saying that I don't have those moments, because I do. But I think that you have gotten better about it. And I think that's because Kim and I can kind of draw that out
Y'all
of you
do.
and give you a little piece with that. Because if you're not by yourself with
That's
that,
a lot of it. If I can focus on you guys,
Yeah.
then I won't, unless somebody touches me. I have to have my
Yeah.
space.
Space, yeah.
But so if I get bumped, then I'm like,
I'm done.
Yeah.
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 no,
Yeah.
they touched me.
Yeah.
And it's just,
And then I have to get her mind off of it and say something funny, or do something stupid just to make her laugh and to get her mind off of it.
Right.
I know how she works. I know how she works. They know how I work.
Exactly.
So we're
I have
all
another friend that's in the same boat too, that has similar to Jen, is like the more of the large crowds, large
Yes.
areas, same thing. So I mean, but at the end of the day, we can all resonate and talk about it and draw out the other person and help the
Yes.
other person out when needed.
absolutely.
Now, I always do tell, I've told this to Jen a couple of times, that two anxiety people don't make a whole. So if we're both feeling that way, it's a little bit more of a struggle, but thankfully that's very far in between, where all three of us are feeling the same anxiety. So one of us can draw at least the other one out
Right.
of that hole, because it's hard when you're also suffering from it at that very same moment to be able to do that.
Then we just lay in bed and binge watch TV.
That's okay. Whatever you got to do to.
And to bring it all in, definitely is talking about find that friend, who you can go to. These girls have been with me forever, and especially Lori, I've been with for 30 years.
Yeah.
But and it'll be another podcast, but talking about, I'm not going to say, so I said it last podcast, but just so for future reference, I'm not going to say Alyssa's dad, because Larry is Alyssa's dad. I'm just going to start saying Alyssa's SD.
When you say biological dad.
No, he's not even biological. Yeah, that's what SD means.
Sorry, I'm late to the party.
But anyways, do you know how many times that in those 12 years that I have called and cried and and they saved me. It saved me a lot, because it was bad. So everyone has been through things, but definitely have a circle of friends, and don't go in it alone ever.
Never.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
You're not alone.
Mm-mm.
No.
Yeah. So, I mean, we will be touching a lot on, like I said, deep diving into further these topics. There's ones I've already talked about. We want to do about relationships, and I can take a deeper dive story into mine with I just kind of touched on, and so, but we wanted to kind of get it out there with this kind of managing stress and anxiety, and that you're not alone, and then it's a lot to manage, and it's a daily thing.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I actually have a little announcement to make.
Okay.
I know. I was looking at my phone earlier, and we now have 30 subscribers. Okay, I know that's not a lot to people, but to us it's exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Thank you.
I thank you for all 30, and we definitely want more and more and more. And I know I'm constantly pushing on all social media. Please subscribe, because we can see that hundreds of people are watching our video, but they're just not clicking subscribe. So I think this is going to be part of my speech every week. Please subscribe, please. I know, because we're bad at it too, where we go and we watch podcasts and then we just move on. And now I'm starting to have more confidence of hitting subscribe.
Well, not all of us. I subscribe to lots of them because that's all I watch.
Right. Now,
I'm getting better
Yeah.
now.
yeah, because now I'm understanding
Right.
it.
Yes.
So, but anyways, please leave comment, share us, like us, anything that you think of. Please let us know. And again, every day is a new beginning.
Every day is a new beginning.
Every day's a new beginning. Bye.
Have a great night.